Well, my name is Caleb Joseph. I am from Haiti. I am currently a student at Christ for the Nations, and we have here.
I'm Vania Gomez Perez. I'm a graduate from CFNI. I graduated in 1988. And back then, my name was Vania Gomez Rivera. Yes, so it's been a long time, but we would love to hear your story.
I guess we have 3 generations here of those who attended CFNI.
Yes.
And my own pathway, like a lot of people, it was sort of miraculous and unexpected. You see, I grew up in a Jewish home here in Indianapolis, and I graduated from Indiana University in 1970, a long time ago. But soon after I graduated, I was a seeker like a lot of young Jewish people my age, but I knew nothing about Jesus. I'd never seen a New Testament. No one ever witnessed to me. I didn't even know that Christians believe that Jesus rose from the dead. So the first time I heard the word New Testament, I thought literally they meant a newer version of the Old Testament. So I didn't even know what it was, 4 Gospels or anything. But anyway, let me tell my pathway, a journey to CFNI. It started in 1971 when I said, I'm going to go out and find the answer. And somebody said, you got to go to this yoga camp in the mountains of Arizona. So I take my trek out west, leaving Indiana for 2 weeks, eating rice, bland rice, and exercising, doing yoga. And at the end of those 2 weeks, I was very disappointed and very discouraged about my search and said, maybe there is no real meaning or answer to life. And so I traveled up to northern Arizona, and while I was camping out, I met a minister. He gave me a New Testament, and that was sort of amazing. And he asked me, have you been born again? And I thought he meant reincarnation, because I just came from a yoga camp. So I thought, I got to come back as a toad, ancient relative. He said, no, you need to be saved. I didn't understand it. Gave me a New Testament, and while I was camping out, read a little bit in the Gospel of John, and it's a long story because a lot of things happened before that, but it seemed like the Holy Spirit, not knowing back then that it was the Holy Spirit, said, why don't you call out to Jesus? And so I looked up to heaven, wherever heaven might be, and I said, Jesus, if you're there, come into my life. And all those Christians were praying at their campsite, I know, because they later told me. So it's the power of prayer. And I had this encounter with Jesus. I knew he was alive. I didn't physically see him, but I knew I felt his presence. I said, oh, Jesus. And right then I knew that he was Lord, that when I died, he would be there. And it was just a marvelous experience. So anyway, I was on my journey to Colorado to see a classmate from college and also from high school. And so I stayed with him for a short time and met some Christians in Denver who invited me to the World Convention of the Full Gospel Businessmen. Now, to those maybe who aren't familiar with that, that was an amazing gathering of young people, business people, and it was part of the revival in the Jesus movement in the 70s. Well, I walked in, and somebody was prophesying up front, saying God was going to pour out his Spirit upon the Jewish people. And I go, wow. I thought I was the only Jew in the world that believed in Jesus. I didn't know about Peter and Paul and the boys. I didn't know that they were all Jewish believers in the beginning. And so I met this minister from South Africa, Reverend Robert Tom. And he laid hands on me in the meeting, and all of a sudden I began to speak another language, in tongues. I never heard, somebody had told me about tongues, but I didn't really understand it. Well, I went back to tell my Jewish friend that night, the Holy Spirit is living in me, and you need Jesus as the Messiah. Well, after I got done, he said, tomorrow I want you out of my apartment. So there I am in Colorado, I think I'm the only Jew in the world who believes in Jesus. Now I'm the homeless Jew. So I prayed, and God led me to this Christian family who I'd met at the conference. And they said, if you ever need a place to stay, you can come and live with us for the summer. So anyway, I moved in with them. They discipled me, and they told me about this non-denominational church that was amazing, where you had hippies coming in barefoot, you had millionaires, business people, all worshiping together. So I went there, and it was amazing, the first church I'd ever been to in my life. And I met a Jewish believer there, Scott Hinkle, who's now an evangelist. He evangelizes in street meetings, youth across the country. And he said, John, how would you like to go to CFNI with me? I've been accepted and I want to go. And I said, what is CFNI? He said, it's a Bible school. I said, what's a Bible school? He said, well, it's a training center where you learn about Jesus and study the Bible. I said, it sounds good to me, but I just got here in Colorado, and I really wrestled with that for a week. And then all of a sudden I decided I'm going to step out in faith and go. I think I had maybe $200 left in my pocket. So I don't know how I'm going to pay for this, but I'm just going to do like Abraham. Went out not knowing where he was going. Well, I didn't know Texas. I'd never been to Texas before. So we pack up my little Toyota Corolla, put everything in, and head off to CFNI. He was my roommate, and it was a wonderful teaching and fellowship. I'll never forget it as long as I live. Of course, now I think there are only like 80 students in. Now there's probably 2,000. So we're a little group of people, and it was all ages. I remember Russell Taff, who was a famous musician today. He was there, and there were people in their 50s, and we all were one. Well, soon after that, I joined a ministry with Mike Evans. He's a Messianic Jewish evangelist, has a national, international ministry. And I was with him for a while. And while I was living in Texas, I decided to visit CFNI. And so I'm there in the auditorium, and Sister Lindsay, I guess had called her Mom Lindsay later on, but I knew her as Sister Lindsay. Sister Lindsay said, "Hey, Jon Lieberman's here. Why don't you come up and lead us in a few songs? Hebrew songs." Well, I thought, I'm not a song leader. I can't even hold a tune. I make a joyful noise, but I can't sing. And so I went up there, a little bit of nervousness, like, how am I going to lead songs? Well, if I lead some Hebrew songs I know, nobody will know if they're sung right anyway. So I was sitting up there and on the platform and next to Gordon Lindsay. And Brother Lindsay, I think every Sunday afternoon he would preach there. And this is in 1973, April of 73. And he was in the chair, I think just a little bit, maybe 5-7 feet away from me. And all of a sudden, as I'm sitting there, I hear a noise. And I turned over, and his head was bowed, I think on his chest, and I thought he was snoring. And I thought, how embarrassing. Brother Lindsay's going to be preaching. He must have been pretty tired, and fell asleep. This is what I actually thought. Then I saw Sister Lindsay come up to the platform, a little bit concerned, and then a few more people. And then I believe, as I remember, she said, "Everybody pray." And I guess Brother Lindsay had a heart attack right there and went to be with the Lord. Now, how did that impact me? Wow. Well, I'm seeing Brother Lindsay there, and then I'm seeing Brother Lindsay's not there. He's in heaven with the Lord. And that made an impact on me of the reality of life after death. I don't know how sudden we could go be with the Lord, but you're here one day, and all of a sudden you're transported into that realm to be with the Lord. And so that heavily impacted me. In fact, later I reflected on that, and I was thinking, just like the mantle fell on Elisha after Elijah was seen going up in a chariot, yes. I was thinking, maybe the mantle will fall upon me. No, I don't know. But just sitting next to such a godly man, and all that he had accomplished for the Lord, and being the head of the healing evangelist, and then eventually turning to start a training school, and then to support building of churches around the world. And for me to be a part of that in the second year of the school, that's amazing. Almost 50 years have passed since I was there. It'll be 50 years next summer in 2021, my 50-year anniversary. So that's sort of my story of how this wandering Jew ended up to Arizona, to Colorado, and then in God's divine providence brought me to CFNI to get me established. And then I went out from there and have been involved in ministry today. In these last 10 years, I've been with Chosen People Ministries, which is one of the largest staffed Jewish missionary evangelism ministries in the world today. And so I've been doing that, and that's basically my story of how a Jewish kid from Indiana ended up at CFNI and now in Jewish ministry today. Still going strong 50 years later.
Wow, that's amazing. Amazing. Wow. And have you reached a lot of Jewish people for God?
Well, as you know, reaching my people is not so easy.
Yes.
There's a veil on their heart. There's a hardness in many ways. But I'm seeing, like in Israel today, they estimate, nobody knows for sure because it's one-on-one, secular Jews open up 15,000, 20,000 Jewish believers and thousands more in the U.S. and around the world. So Romans 11:11 says, salvation has come unto the Gentiles to provoke the Jew to jealousy. Most Gentiles just provoke the Jew. You don't know how to love them, witness to them, care for them, listen to their arguments, befriend them over a long period of time. But I believe that when you provoke them to jealousy and they see something in your life, they'll say, you know more about the Jewish scriptures than I do. You love the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob more than I do. Yeah. What is it? What draws you to that? Why are you studying the Tanakh, which are the Hebrew scriptures? And then you can tell them, because my Messiah is Jewish. Everything about me is Jewish, except me. About my faith is Jewish. Everything about my faith is Jewish, except me. I believe in the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I believe in the Jewish scriptures, and I believe in the promised Jewish Messiah. And his name is Yeshua, Jesus' Hebrew name, which means God brings salvation.